I'm Mary Schweitzer. I'm here because I've had this disease since 1990. Well, since 1990, I collapsed in my office. I was a professor. On September 24th, 1994, I went up to grade papers. I had a blackout. When I came to, I couldn't understand a word of what was in the papers. It was like it was in Cyrillic alphabet. And I had completely crashed. I couldn't. I tried to drive home on the interstate, and my neck hurt so badly I had to move like this to see what was next to me. And by the time I looked forward again, I'd forgotten, and I had just completely fallen into it. For the next 4 years, I deteriorated. I was diagnosed immediately. My students diagnosed me. I saw a good doctor in Washington, but no matter what we did, I kept getting worse and worse. And so finally, I was almost entirely bedridden. I could get to the bathroom and back, and that was about it. And I spent my days listening to Sense and Sensibility over and over again. And my husband would leave me food upstairs. And it took a while to be able to reach the food. I became involved. The first meeting I went to at HHS was 1996 when they started CFSCC, Chronic Fatigue Syndrome Coordinating Committee. And I'd been going there, 20 years I've been going down to Washington. I used to live in Delaware. And they would say I would testify, and they would say, they would either ignore it, they'd say it wasn't true. They thought it was a silly disease of silly women. Now, my husband and I looked at the research, and we found a biomarker, a really interesting biomarker, the 37-kDa RNA ZEL, which is a product of a biochemical process that helps take viruses out. Mine was half-sized, half was missing. And I found that I had that, and also Dr. Durama Blaschi, who discovered HHV6A and then its other variant B, while working with AIDS patients at the National Cancer Institute, wanted to see if some CFS patients had it. So my doctor knew him, so Blaschi tested me. My viral load was so high that he called my family and said, if she's not in bed, make her stay there. I was in bed, but my family loves him ever since. So I had two biomarkers, and I knew that the drug Ampligen was supposed to work with those biomarkers. At the time, it was $40,000 for the first year. My parents paid half of it. But within 2 months, I could walk again. Within 6 months, the viruses were dormant and the biomarkers were gone. And I could read a book. I walked on the beach. In fact, walking at all was intoxicating. I danced with my son at his wedding. And I got better and better, and I thought I was cured. So I went off it, started working on going back to teaching. And a year after I went off it, I had a blackout, and it was back again. And Dr. Blaschi was about an hour and a half down the road, so he tested me again, and HHV6A was back in spades. So it took me 7 months to get back on Ampligen, and once I got back, this time it was $20,000 a year. It's an immune booster and antiviral. It is a it is an asymmetrical, synthetic, double-stranded RNA. There's no other drug like it. And it's a shame that the company just can't manage to mail with it, but because it would probably help other diseases. At any rate, it worked for me. For the first, I was great, and then, boom, same thing again. I had trouble getting back on it, but I got a little help from Joe Biden. I live in Delaware. Everybody knows everybody. And we decided, then the price was down to $20,000 a year, which was pretty much my after-tax disability. So my husband and I decided I would stay on it, and we'd live on his income. So I was on it for 5 years. Then the guy in charge of the practice died, and the FDA took it away from me. This time I was off it 2 years. And then I had during that period, I had a spinal tap that showed I had HHV6A and cytomegalovirus in my spinal fluid. I want the federal government to quit, to get out of themselves and learn something from the specialists in the disease in the private sector. Nobody at NIH, and I mean nobody, understands this disease. Nobody at CDC understands this disease. They've been saying we would be fine with Prozac and graded exercise And it's not NIM, it's not the National Institute for Mental Health that says this, it's the virologist. It's not the mental health department at CDC, it's the Department of Viruses and Examples that says this. These people, psychiatry is not their specialty, but they think it's a disease of silly women, and that is the way they portray it. We've got specialists around the country. Look at all that I know about myself. And they won't pay attention to that. We don't have to start from zero. I lost one of my best friends died on Monday. She had had the disease for 32 years.
Talking about his patient.
I lost another friend 3 months ago. My best friend's 23-year-old son died of myocarditis in the middle of the night because the viruses had gotten his heart. And doctors had laughed at him. They said, you have CFS, and they had laughed at him. And he died at 23 of a heart attack.